Let me tell you something about a man who spends too much time alone. He's dangerous. Now, I'm not talking about the kind of man who enjoys his own company occasionally, the kind who takes a moment to reflect or recharge. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the man who isolates himself day after day, living in his own bubble, shutting out the world. He's dangerous, not because he's weak, but because he's built up walls so high that no one can get in. When a person spends too much time alone, they begin to live in a bubble of their own creation. Initially, solitude may feel like a place of peace and reflection, a sanctuary where they can think without distraction. However, over time, that solitude can become a dangerous trap. The danger of isolation isn't just about being physically alone, it's the psychological and emotional toll that comes with severing ties with the outside world. As a person isolates themselves, they start to see the world through a distorted lens. Without regular interaction with others, there's no one to challenge their thoughts, opinions, or emotions. No one is there to offer a different perspective. And no one is there to provide the balance that social relationships inherently offer. This lack of external influence can lead to a false sense of self-sufficiency. The isolated individual may begin to believe that they are fine on their own, that they don't need anyone. In this state, they become disconnected from reality and begin to isolate further, reinforcing the notion that they can handle everything alone, even if it's not true. The human mind isn't designed to function in isolation for extended periods. Interaction with others is essential for emotional health. Relationships, whether with family, friends, or colleagues, provide the checks and balances that prevent one from descending into negative thought patterns. Without these interactions, it's easy to fall into a cycle of negative self-talk, self-doubt, and insecurity. A person who isolates themselves too much might become consumed by their own thoughts, often spiraling into a state where they believe they are worthless or incapable. Without the voices of others to offer encouragement or support, these negative thoughts gain power and start to define that person's reality. Isolation can lead to a weakening of social skills. Human beings are social creatures, and our ability to connect with others is fundamental to our survival and success. When a person isolates themselves for long periods, they lose the ability to engage meaningfully with others. They become more awkward in social settings, less confident in their interactions, and more afraid of rejection. This fear only deepens their isolation, trapping them in a vicious cycle. Another danger of isolation is that it leads to a narrowing of perspective. When a person is cut off from the world, they only see things from their own viewpoint. The lack of exposure to different ideas, cultures, and opinions causes the mind to become narrow and limited. It becomes easy to slip into prejudices, assumptions, and misconceptions because there is no one around to challenge those beliefs. In isolation, a person can build up an echo chamber of their own thoughts, amplifying their biases and reinforcing their ignorance. Emotional numbness is another byproduct of prolonged isolation. Initially, a person might think that being alone is a means to avoid pain or difficulty. However, in reality, isolation numbs all emotions, not just the negative ones, but the positive ones too. Over time, the person becomes desensitized to joy, excitement, and fulfillment. They lose the ability to experience the highs of life because they've shielded themselves from the lows. As a result, life becomes flat, monotonous, and devoid of meaning. The longer isolation persists, the harder it is to break free. The walls that a person builds around themselves become more difficult to tear down as time goes on. The fear of vulnerability increases, and the thought of reconnecting with others becomes overwhelming. The isolated person may even feel that they've become unworthy of connection, believing that others won't understand them or that they'll be judged. This only further deepens their isolation and reinforces their sense of alienation. In extreme cases, isolation can lead to more severe psychological effects such as depression, anxiety, and even suicidal thoughts. The lack of human connection, compounded by the absence of external feedback, creates a state of despair. A person might feel like they're losing their grip on reality, unable to distinguish between what's real and what's in their head. They become disconnected not only from others, but from themselves, losing sight of their own identity and purpose. The danger of isolation also extends beyond the individual. When a person isolates themselves, they stop contributing to the world around them. They stop being part of the social fabric that holds society together. Relationships, communities, and collaborations suffer because the isolated individual withdraws from the shared human experience. This can have a ripple effect, impacting not only the individual's life, but also the lives of those who care about them. Isolation breeds a sense of loneliness that spreads, affecting friends, family, and coworkers. It's not just the isolated person who suffers, but everyone they could have connected with. The danger of isolation lies in its ability to erode the person from the inside out. It chips away at their self-worth, their ability to relate to others, and their understanding of the world. It distorts their reality, turning them inward and away from the connection and growth that are vital to the human experience. The longer one spends in isolation, the harder it becomes to break free, and the more dangerous it becomes not just to themselves, but to everyone they encounter. Loss of connection is one of the most subtle, yet profound dangers of isolation. When a person withdraws from the world around them, whether consciously or unconsciously, they begin to lose touch with the very essence of what it means to be human. Connection is not just a social nicety, it's a fundamental need. It's what keeps us grounded, what challenges our beliefs, and what nurtures our growth. Without it, a person becomes disconnected from not just others, but from their own sense of purpose and identity. At first, the feeling of loneliness can be manageable, almost comforting. The quiet, the lack of pressure, the absence of expectations, it all feels like a refuge from the noise of life. But as time goes on, the lack of connection begins to take its toll. Humans are inherently social beings. We thrive in communities, whether it's a family, a circle of friends, or a larger network of colleagues and acquaintances. Without these bonds, a person begins to lose their sense of self-worth, their sense of value, and ultimately their sense of belonging. The absence of connection creates an emotional void, a hollow feeling that no amount of solitude can fill. This loss of connection leads to a breakdown in communication. Over time, the isolated individual finds it harder and harder to relate to others. The skills needed to engage in meaningful conversations, to offer support, and to accept help begin to deteriorate. A person who has cut themselves off from the world loses the ability to listen, to empathize, and to share. They become more self-centered, not necessarily out of malice, but because they've forgotten how to be truly present with others. When they do interact, it's often strained and superficial, as they've lost the depth that comes with building relationships over time. They may struggle to understand other people's feelings, reactions, or even just basic social cues. The loss of connection leads to a distorted sense of reality. Relationships act as mirrors, reflecting back to us who we are and how we fit into the world. Without this feedback, a person's self-image becomes warped. They start questioning their value, wondering if anyone would even miss them if they were gone. The truth is, human beings need to feel seen and heard to feel validated. When someone disconnects from the world, they stop receiving that validation. Over time, This can lead to deep feelings of worthlessness and self-doubt. They may start to feel invisible, like they don't matter, as if their presence in the world isn't important. What's even more dangerous is that the longer a person stays isolated, the more they start to believe that they don't need anyone. They convince themselves that they are better off alone, that other people are just distractions or worse, burdens. This belief is a defense mechanism, born from the pain of rejection or loss. But it's a lie. No one is truly self-sufficient. We all need love, support, and connection. We all need someone to talk to, someone to challenge us, someone to help us grow. When we lose that connection, we stop growing. We stop learning. We stop evolving into the people we are meant to be. The absence of connection also leads to a loss of perspective. Relationships expose us to different viewpoints, different ways of thinking, and different experiences. Without these, a person's view of the world becomes narrow and limited. They stop being challenged by new ideas or diverse opinions. They become trapped in their own echo chamber, where their beliefs and assumptions go unchallenged. This lack of diverse perspectives leads to stagnation and even rigidity in their thinking. When a person isolates themselves from others, they stop being pushed outside of their comfort zone. They lose the ability to adapt, to change, and to see the world in all its complexity. This can lead to a kind of mental stagnation, where the person's growth is stunted and their ability to solve problems or deal with challenges is weakened. The loss of connection has a profound impact on emotional health. Human connections are a source of emotional nourishment. They provide comfort in times of grief, support during hardship, and joy in moments of celebration. When someone isolates themselves, they lose access to this emotional support system. They face the highs and lows of life alone, without anyone to share their triumphs or ease their burdens. This emotional isolation can lead to depression, anxiety, and feelings of despair. The emotional weight of life becomes much harder to bear when you have no one to lean on. The more a person isolates themselves, the more they disconnect from their own emotions. When we are surrounded by others, we have opportunities to express our feelings, to talk through our problems, and to release our frustrations. But when we isolate ourselves, we bottle up those emotions. We push them down because there's no one around to listen or to help us process them. This can lead to emotional numbness, where a person becomes detached from their own feelings. They may find it difficult to experience joy, to feel excitement, or even to recognize sadness when it arises. The loss of connection doesn't just alienate them from others, it alienates them from themselves. The loss of connection has a ripple effect. When a person withdraws from the world, it impacts not just their own well-being, but also the well-being of those around them. Relationships require mutual effort. If one person stops contributing, if they stop showing up emotionally, the relationship suffers. Friends, family members, colleagues, they all feel the absence of someone who used to be there, someone who used to connect with them. The isolated person becomes a void in the lives of those who care about them, and over time, these relationships can erode. The longer the isolation continues, the harder it becomes to rebuild those bonds. Isolation has a profound impact on an individual's strength, both mentally and emotionally. It may seem like being alone can provide the space to find inner strength, but in reality, it often has the opposite effect. Humans are social creatures, and our strength is derived from relationships, interactions, and support systems. The longer someone remains isolated, the more their internal resources begin to deplete, leaving them vulnerable and weakened. When a person isolates themselves, they are cutting off one of the most important sources of strength, the connection with others. Relationships serve as a support system that reinforces our mental and emotional resilience. When times get tough, the presence of others, whether family, friends, or colleagues, helps provide perspective, encouragement, and hope. Being around others helps us cope with stress and adversity. Their wisdom, shared experiences, and just the comfort of their presence give us the strength to keep going when we feel like giving up. Without these connections, it becomes easier to succumb to feelings of hopelessness, doubt, and weakness. The longer someone spends in isolation, the more difficult it becomes to navigate the challenges life throws their way. Without anyone to talk to, share frustrations with, or offer advice, a person may begin to feel overwhelmed by the weight of their problems. The burden feels much heavier when there's no one around to help lighten it. Isolation breeds self-doubt and insecurity. When faced with adversity, individuals who isolate themselves often struggle to find solutions on their own, doubting their ability to overcome obstacles. They start to internalize the idea that they are alone in their struggles, which erodes their self-confidence and makes the road to recovery much harder. Isolation creates a barrier to emotional growth and strength. Our emotional strength is built through facing and processing emotions, but isolation stops that process. In the absence of other people, a person's emotions can go unexamined and unresolved. They may bottle up their feelings of anger, sadness, fear, or frustration because they have no one to help them process these emotions. Over time, this emotional baggage accumulates and becomes harder to deal with. Instead of learning to cope with these emotions, the person suppresses them, which only leads to greater emotional instability. They may find it difficult to regulate their emotions, often feeling like they are constantly on the edge of breaking down. Isolation also weakens one's ability to adapt to change. Life constantly presents new challenges, and our strength lies in our ability to adapt to these changes. When we are surrounded by people, we are exposed to different viewpoints, ideas, and ways of thinking. We learn how to navigate change by observing others and engaging in meaningful conversations. However, when someone isolates themselves, they lose these opportunities for growth. Their world shrinks, and they become less open to new experiences. This lack of exposure to different ideas or challenges leaves them less equipped to handle the demands of life, causing them to struggle in unfamiliar situations or when unexpected changes occur. Isolation breeds an unhealthy sense of self-reliance. While independence can be a strength, there is a fine line between healthy self-reliance and stubbornness that leads to isolation. When a person isolates themselves, they often convince themselves that they don't need anyone. They believe that they can handle everything on their own, which initially might seem like strength. But in reality, this type of self-reliance is detrimental. It prevents them from seeking help when they need it, and it fosters a sense of pride that hinders growth. The truth is, no one can go through life without needing the help or support of others. The inability to ask for help or accept support is a sign of weakness, not strength. This type of isolation-induced pride can lead to emotional numbness. Over time, a person's capacity to feel deeply, whether positive or negative emotions, becomes dulled. Emotional strength requires the ability to feel and process emotions, but when isolated, those feelings are either suppressed or ignored. As a result, a person becomes disconnected from their own emotional landscape. They might feel detached or numb, unable to experience the full range of human emotions. This emotional numbness weakens their overall resilience because they become indifferent to both the challenges they face and the joys they could experience if they were more connected with themselves and others. Social isolation also impacts physical health, which directly affects a person's strength. Studies have shown that loneliness and isolation are linked to a range of physical health issues, including a weakened immune system, increased blood pressure, and higher stress levels. Stress hormones, such as cortisol, increase when a person feels isolated, leading to chronic stress and inflammation that can significantly reduce physical strength. Without the encouragement of loved ones or the social support that often accompanies a healthy lifestyle, people in isolation may neglect their health. This neglect can manifest in poor eating habits, lack of exercise, and poor sleep, all of which weaken the body and diminish overall strength. In addition to physical health, isolation also affects cognitive strength. Isolation can lead to feelings of mental fog and confusion. Without external stimuli and the engagement of social interactions, a person's cognitive abilities may decline. Problem solving becomes more difficult, and critical thinking becomes less sharp. The absence of discussions with others makes it harder to process new information, and the lack of collaboration prevents the exchange of ideas that fuel intellectual growth. This mental stagnation creates a feeling of helplessness, as the individual struggles to solve problems or find solutions to challenges without the benefit of diverse viewpoints. Isolation takes a toll on a person's overall sense of well-being and strength. It strips away the support, encouragement, and growth opportunities that relationships offer. It leaves an individual disconnected from their emotions, their potential, and the world around them. They may feel as though they are losing their ability to handle the trials of life. And in the process, they forget that true strength comes from within, but is often nurtured and reinforced through connection with others. Vulnerability is often viewed as a weakness in a world that values strength, independence, and self-reliance. Yet, vulnerability is one of the most powerful and transformative qualities a person can embrace. When someone allows themselves to be vulnerable, they open up the possibility for connection, growth, and healing in ways that are otherwise unattainable. Far from making them weak, vulnerability is a sign of immense emotional strength. It is a key ingredient in creating meaningful relationships, gaining self-awareness, and developing the inner strength needed to face life's challenges. One of the greatest misconceptions about vulnerability is that it's synonymous with weakness. The truth, however, is that vulnerability requires courage. It takes immense bravery to expose one's true feelings, desires, and fears, particularly in a society that often emphasizes the importance of being tough, invulnerable, or unaffected. When someone allows themselves to be vulnerable, they are letting go of the facade they might have built to protect themselves from pain or rejection. They are saying, "I trust you with the most authentic version of myself." In a world that is quick to judge, this is no small act. Vulnerability is the foundation of connection. Human beings are social creatures, and we need relationships to thrive. Relationships built on authenticity and openness are far more meaningful and resilient than those based on superficiality or guardedness. Vulnerability invites others to share their own truths, creating an environment where mutual trust and empathy can flourish. When someone allows themselves to be vulnerable, they give others permission to do the same, breaking down walls and fostering deeper, more genuine connections. Whether in friendships, romantic relationships, or even professional environments, vulnerability enables people to truly understand each other, providing a strong foundation for mutual respect and care. By embracing vulnerability, individuals also give themselves the opportunity to grow. Personal growth is often triggered by discomfort and challenges, which require us to confront parts of ourselves that are hidden or repressed. Vulnerability forces people to acknowledge their fears, insecurities, and past experiences that may have shaped their behavior. It is in this space of openness and honesty that transformation occurs. When someone is vulnerable, they have the chance to heal emotional wounds and release the burdens of past traumas. They can confront their weaknesses head on and choose to evolve, ultimately becoming more self-aware and self-accepting. Vulnerability also plays a crucial role in self-compassion. It's easy to be hard on oneself when facing setbacks or failures. Many people find it easier to shut down emotionally, pretending that they don't care or that nothing affects them. But when someone chooses vulnerability, they are giving themselves permission to experience and process their emotions fully, without shame or judgment. This self-compassion allows them to be kinder to themselves, understanding that imperfections and struggles are part of the human experience. Rather than hiding from these feelings, they embrace them, knowing that by doing so, they are healing and growing. Vulnerability is essential for building resilience. Life is filled with challenges, losses, and uncertainties. The ability to bounce back from these setbacks is rooted in how we process and handle our emotions. When someone is vulnerable, they allow themselves to experience grief, disappointment, fear, or frustration. They don't bottle up these emotions or push them aside. Instead, they give themselves the space to feel these emotions, and through this process, they build emotional strength. It's through vulnerability that people can learn to cope with adversity, adapt to difficult circumstances, and eventually grow stronger. Vulnerability also fosters creativity and innovation. In order to create something truly original or impactful, individuals must be willing to take risks and step into the unknown. This often requires them to expose their ideas, opinions, or projects to the judgment of others. By allowing themselves to be vulnerable in these situations, they free themselves from the fear of failure or criticism. Instead, they embrace the process of trial and error, understanding that mistakes are an inevitable part of growth and success. When someone is open to vulnerability, they become more willing to take creative risks, leading to greater innovation and personal achievement. Moreover, vulnerability is vital in leadership. Strong leaders are not those who have all the answers or maintain a perfect image. Rather, the most effective leaders are those who are willing to show their own human side. Vulnerable leaders build trust with their teams by acknowledging their own struggles, admitting when they don't have all the answers, and being open to feedback. This transparency and honesty create an environment where others feel safe to express their own ideas and concerns, fostering collaboration and growth within the team. Leaders who lead with vulnerability inspire others to be their authentic selves, which ultimately leads to stronger, more cohesive groups. In personal relationships, vulnerability allows for deeper intimacy and emotional connection. It can be difficult to share our true selves, particularly in romantic relationships where there is often a fear of being judged or rejected. However, without vulnerability, relationships remain shallow and unfulfilling. When both individuals are open and vulnerable with each other, they allow the relationship to flourish. They are able to navigate conflict with empathy and understanding, knowing that both parties are invested in maintaining an honest and authentic bond. The responsibility we have to others is not just an obligation, it is a reflection of our humanity. At the heart of being human lies the ability to connect, support, and uplift those around us. This responsibility extends beyond our immediate circle, influencing the broader community, society, and the world at large. It is a moral and ethical duty that transcends personal gain or convenience, requiring us to consider the impact of our actions on the lives of others. It is easy to focus solely on our own needs and desires, but true fulfillment comes when we recognize that our lives are intertwined with those of others. One of the most profound aspects of our responsibility to others is the role we play in their well-being. Whether we are family members, friends, colleagues, or strangers, we all have the power to affect the lives of others through our actions, words, and choices. In relationships, this responsibility manifests in the way we treat one another, offering support, empathy, and understanding when others are in need. It is not enough to only be present in times of ease and joy. Our true responsibility shines through when we stand by others during their struggles and difficulties. Whether someone is facing a personal crisis, dealing with grief, or simply going through a tough time, our role is to show up not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. Being there for others in times of need builds trust and strengthens relationships, allowing those around us to feel safe, valued, and supported. Our responsibility to others is reflected in our actions within the larger social and professional context. In our communities, we have a duty to contribute to the collective good, working together to create environments that foster growth, equality, and opportunity. Whether through volunteer work, activism, or simply being a good neighbor, our responsibility extends to ensuring that others have access to the resources and opportunities they need to thrive. This might mean standing up for those who are marginalized, speaking out against injustice, or offering our skills and talents to support causes greater than ourselves. The world is full of inequalities, and while it may seem like one person cannot make a difference, collective efforts can lead to significant change. Every act of kindness, every gesture of support, and every voice raised in opposition to wrongdoing contributes to a ripple effect that can transform lives. Responsibility to others also involves understanding the interconnectedness of human lives. Our actions do not exist in isolation, they have consequences. A seemingly small decision made by one person can affect the lives of many others, either positively or negatively. In today's globalized world, our choices, even in our personal lives, can have far-reaching effects. From the products we consume to the way we interact with the environment, everything we do impacts others. For instance, making ethical choices about the companies we support, advocating for sustainable practices, or promoting inclusivity and diversity all play a part in creating a better world for everyone. In recognizing this responsibility, we begin to see that our well-being is intimately tied to the well-being of others. Our responsibility to others also includes helping them grow and reach their potential. This is especially relevant in mentorship, parenting, and leadership. When we support others in their personal and professional development, we contribute to their success and growth. A mentor's guidance can shape the future of a young person, while a parent's encouragement can empower their child to pursue their dreams. As leaders, whether in a family, community, or workplace, we hold the responsibility of fostering environments where others can excel, providing them with the resources and opportunities they need to thrive. This responsibility is not about control or dominance, but about empowerment, helping others to become the best versions of themselves. In doing so, we enrich the lives of others and, by extension, our own lives as well. Our responsibility to others also involves promoting empathy and understanding. In a world that can often feel divided, it is crucial to seek to understand the perspectives of others. Empathy allows us to connect with people on a deeper level, bridging the gaps that exist between us. It means listening to someone without judgment, validating their experiences, and offering support without expecting anything in return. When we take the time to understand someone else's struggles or joys, we acknowledge their humanity, which in turn fosters compassion and kindness. Empathy builds strong relationships, whether in personal or professional settings, and helps to create a sense of unity, even in times of disagreement. By choosing empathy, we recognize that we are all navigating the complexities of life together, and that our shared experiences, both the joys and the challenges, make us stronger as a community. Responsibility to others involves accountability. It is easy to point fingers and place blame when things go wrong, but true responsibility requires us to take ownership of our actions. When we make mistakes or misjudgments, it is important to own up to them and work to rectify the situation. This accountability strengthens relationships as others see us as trustworthy and reliable. It also sets an example for those around us, encouraging them to take responsibility for their own actions. When we fail to take responsibility for our actions, we not only damage our relationships but also hinder our own growth and progress. Taking responsibility is not about perfection, but about integrity, acknowledging our shortcomings and striving to do better. In relationships, work, and community, we have a shared responsibility to treat others with dignity and respect. In a world where individuals often face criticism, judgment, and discrimination, offering kindness and respect can have a profound impact on someone's life. Small acts of kindness, whether it's offering a helping hand or simply listening with an open heart, can make all the difference. Showing respect for others' opinions, boundaries, and experiences fosters a culture of mutual understanding where individuals feel valued and empowered. This responsibility to offer respect and kindness is not limited to people we know, it extends to strangers as well. Every interaction is an opportunity to make a positive impact on someone's day or life. Our responsibility to others is about recognizing our shared humanity and understanding that we all have a part to play in creating a better world. It is not simply about what we can do for ourselves, but about how we can lift others up, help them grow, and create a more compassionate and just society. Our actions matter, and when we take responsibility for others, we contribute to something larger than ourselves. Togetherness is a powerful force, one that has the ability to transform individuals, communities, and societies. It is more than just being physically close to others. It's about emotional connection, mutual support, and the shared pursuit of common goals. When people come together with a sense of unity, they create an environment where strength is amplified and individual potential is maximized. The power of togetherness is rooted in the understanding that we are all interconnected, and our collective efforts can overcome challenges that seem insurmountable when faced alone. At the core of togetherness lies the idea that collaboration breeds success. When people work together, they bring different skills, experiences, and perspectives to the table, creating a dynamic and innovative environment. This diversity of thought and talent leads to better problem solving, more creative solutions, and increased efficiency. In many ways, the whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts. Each person's contribution, no matter how small, plays an essential role in achieving a shared vision. This is true in the workplace, in family dynamics, and in communities. Whether it's building a business, raising children, or tackling societal challenges, success is often the result of people working together in harmony, pooling their resources, and using their collective strength to reach their objectives. Togetherness also fosters a sense of belonging. In a world that can sometimes feel isolating, having a group of people who support and care for you creates a sense of purpose and security. Belonging is a fundamental human need. It gives people the confidence to be themselves, to take risks, and to pursue their dreams. When we feel that we are part of something larger than ourselves, we are motivated to push through difficult times and rise to challenges that might otherwise seem overwhelming. Whether it's the love of family, the camaraderie of friends, or the solidarity of a community, being part of something bigger than ourselves provides a sense of fulfillment and drives us to make positive contributions. Togetherness provides emotional support, which is invaluable in times of hardship. Life is filled with challenges, whether personal struggles, health issues, or external pressures, and having people by your side during these times can make all the difference. When individuals come together in times of crisis, they provide a network of strength that helps each person navigate through difficult circumstances. It's not just about offering solutions, it's about offering a listening ear, emotional encouragement, and tangible support. Sometimes the mere presence of others is enough to help someone get through a tough situation. The shared experience of facing adversity together creates bonds that are unbreakable and provide a sense of reassurance that no one has to face life's challenges alone. The power of togetherness also lies in its ability to inspire and motivate. When individuals come together for a common purpose, they can uplift each other in ways that are impossible when isolated. The energy created by a group of people united in their efforts can be contagious, sparking enthusiasm, creativity, and determination in all involved. This is especially true in situations where individuals may feel discouraged or uncertain. Being part of a collective effort can reignite hope and drive, reminding each person of the importance of their contribution and the value of the work being done. The success of one individual becomes the success of the group, and vice versa, creating a positive feedback loop that propels everyone forward. Togetherness also promotes empathy and understanding. When people come together, they share their stories, experiences, and emotions. This sharing of personal narratives fosters a deeper understanding of one another and creates opportunities for empathy to grow. It's easy to judge others when we don't know their struggles, but when we engage with others in a meaningful way, we begin to understand their challenges and celebrate their victories. This mutual understanding is what drives us to help each other, to lift one another up, and to work together towards a better future. It's the ability to put ourselves in someone else's shoes, to listen without judgment, and to offer support without expecting anything in return. This kind of empathy builds bridges and strengthens relationships, making the bonds between people even more powerful.